Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here on Swish City, where we are looking at the 10-game slate from last night, going over each game, kind of looking at some players that stood out, players that didn't, which teams are looking good, which teams are not, all of that jazz. Without further ado, let's get into the video at hand today. So I previously recorded this video and it just froze. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter and sweeter than what I did earlier because it was around 15 minutes and it was right around halfway. But let's look at the first game that tipped off at 7 o'clock, the only game to tip off at 7, and that was the Pacers versus Pistons game where the Pacers won 115 to 109. And it was a back and forth battle in this contest here. Pacers ultimately coming back in the fourth quarter to be able to win this game. And as I am breaking this down, Shams Charania just tweeted out that James Wiseman has suffered a torn Achilles tendon, and they are going to work collaboratively to determine treatment options. So that's not good for James Wiseman. That's not good for the Pacers. He did go down. Pacers did come away with the W. Tyrese Halliburton didn't have the greatest game. We did hit the game ceiling three to kind of ensure the victory with it being his only basket. Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam did play solid. Turner 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks. Siakam 19, 8, and 9. 2 rebounds and 1 assist shy of a triple double. With Benedict Mathurin looking like that nice scorer and six-man player that he can be for this Pacers bench. On the Pacers side of things, Cade Cunningham is showcasing his skills once again and is going to prove his disbelievers and haters wrong. And I can't wait to see how it is going to look for this Pistons team now that they got some shooters around them. Tobias Harris only made 1 3, but Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley did do solid from 3 point range for this team. And Jalen Duran put up a double double with 13 points and 13 rebounds. I am liking what this Pistons team can bring. They look a lot better than last year, and I think they're going to be a little bit higher than what people put them as. I know a lot of people were disbelieving them because of last season, but I think that they'll be in the middle of the pack of the bottom five this time around. They won't be in the bottom three. All right, so let's get to the next game here. This is going to be a breakdown of the Hawks and Nets. And this one was closer than I think a lot of people expected. Hawks coming away with the victory 120 to 116. For the Hawks here, we had players like Trae Young dominate once again, showcasing his skill set, 30 points and 12 assists. Onyeka Okongwu, a player that I've been on the hype train for multiple years. For the past 3 seasons, counting this one, I've been stating that Onyeka Okongwu needs to be starting, and I think he's going to cement that spot this season. 28 points, 8 rebounds, shooting 92% from the field. It's absolutely fantastic from what we saw out of Okongwu in last night's performance. A little bit of walking lineups for the Brooklyn Nets here, but we did see Cam Thomas get in his bag. They're going to give him the ball. They're going to let him jack up shots. He got 36 points on 27 shot attempts. Jalen Wilson had 16 points off the bench as well. But the main storyline coming from this game, obviously happening between Nicholas Claxton and Dyson Daniels, where Dyson Daniels was going for a layup and Nicholas Claxton absolutely clotheslined him and was ejected from the game with a flagrant 2. Very well deserved. We'll have to see how that suspension looks, but for a Nets team that's not already great and not set to be on a good start this season, this is not a great start to the year, having one of their better players possibly dealing with a suspension or maybe a fine going into the season already. Next, let's look at the Battle of Florida here as we see the Orlando Magic take on the Miami Heat. And last night I was watching this game, and the Miami Heat were in contention for it for most of the first half, but third quarter it was just over for the Heat, getting outscored 39 to 18. And Orlando just came to play with their wing duo of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner really taking over. Paolo Banchero is a player I believe can kind of take over for this Magic team, kind of step up and have that Anthony Edwards kind of blossom year that we saw last season. And I think it's going to happen with Orlando this year. 33 and 11 last night. Franz Wagner, 23 points as well. And Gary Harris, 18 points with 6 3-pointers. Gonna need that 3-point shooting for this Magic team, and that defense is looking elite with Jalen Suggs, Katavius Caldwell Pope. It is going to be tough for opposing teams to score on them. And that's what the Heat ran into last night in the second half, kind of falling apart, specifically in the third quarter. Bad shooting nights for all the players. Jimmy Butler, 3 points. Tyler Hero, 14. Terry Rozier, 19, being the leading scorer, even though he did shoot 29%. 29% from 3-point range and 33% from the field. The Heat have some question marks, have some things that need to be answered here. And ultimately, I think the Magic might be a team that is looking a lot scarier than people thought, and the Heat might be a team that has a little more question marks than people thought. So let's get into the first prime time matchup. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be discussing, breaking down, looking at the Bucks Sixers game. Now, obviously, this game was not close in any way, shape, or form. The Bucks won 124 to 109, and the Sixers obviously did not have Paul George and Joel Embiid as they are out. Now, Joel Embiid is obviously having that investigation being done on him throughout this season here, as we all know, as he's going to be sitting out a couple games. The NBA is doing a little bit of investigation. Paul George dealt with a hyperextended leg in the playoffs, so we'll see how he handles that. But for the Sixers here, basically, Oubre and Maxey were gifted with taking shots galore, combining for 49 shot attempts and 46 points. Drummond filled in for Embiid, 10 points, 13 rebounds. And even Gershon Yabusele looked like he could be a solid role piece for this Sixers squad, but it clearly wasn't enough for a Milwaukee Bucks team that just had too much firepower for the Sixers team to control. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 25, 14, and 7. Damian Lillard with 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists coming out on fire. And obviously, Torian Prince filling in for that Chris Middleton role, shooting 80% from three-point range and knocking down four threes, totaling 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. He's been a great filler in for that bench rotation. I think will be a key role player for that Bucks team. Ultimately, for the Sixers, they just got to get back to healthy, to have all their star players to get a full evaluation. And for the Bucks, ultimately, I need to see them play a team that is going to be fully healthy to kind of get my full evaluation. But the Bucks do look better than I expected, and the Sixers are gonna might be worse with these injuries dealing with them. Now for this game, I watched probably the first 10 minutes, and then after that, I checked out as Cleveland just went on a monster tear, and Toronto had nothing to do to stop them. Getting blown out by 30 points in your home opener on your 30th year anniversary is not something you want to be dealing with if you're a Toronto Raptors fan, and unfortunately, that's what they ran into. Quickly got hurt, had to leave the game halfway through. Chris Boucher was their leading scorer with 18 points, and ultimately, I think my judgment of this team was a little too high. I think they're going to be a bottom three team in the East. I just think that they don't have enough star talent to really help them over. Obviously, RJ Barrett wasn't playing either, but I do think when we ultimately do look at this squad, there's going to be times where they're going to be relying on these young players. They may not deliver, they may have some inconsistencies, and truly, I think their role players aren't deep enough or great enough veterans to kind of help them out. They've also had some young role players as well. They're trying to find their roles. With the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're kind of a well-oiled machine, kind of led by Evan Mobley last night. 25 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, looking like one of the most dominant bigs and really going to take over for this Cavaliers team. I've been a big proponent of kind of blowing it up and kind of getting the two center room out of here and having Mobley just kind of be that center, specifically with a lot of teams needing centers in the league. And I think that's something the Cavs can kind of look at in this route going this year. Karis LeVert was also fantastic, 19 points, 88% from the field, 100% from three, just on fire. And Donovan Mitchell, 21 points, once again being that leader for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Darius Garland did have a big little question mark, 7 points. Did have 6 assists, but shooting 25% from the field and 60% from three is not going to cut it to be one of these better players for the Cavs. And that might be a little bit of an issue for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Now we're getting into some fun, exciting basketball. And this was the game I was probably looking forward to the most because it's got two exciting teams that are very heavily on offense, very heavily and highly impactful on offense, and also have some great young talent. We had the Hornets, we had the Rockets. And ultimately, both these teams, I think, are a little bit lower in their expectations out west. Unfortunately for the Rockets, this was a must-needed win game that they were winning for a majority of the game, but they ultimately ended up losing 110 to 105 to the Hornets, with LaMelo Ball having a 34, 8 rebound, and 11 assist game, shooting 50% from the field and 33% from three-point range. Trey Mann is looking like an absolute beast as well off this bench as a fantastic scorer. Was another player I was very, very high on for this team and someone I was very believing in. Unfortunately for the Hornets, though, Brandon Miller did get hurt in this game dealing with an injury. Got a really cool dunk, finished with 6 points, but we'll have to wait and see the evaluation on him leading into the next game. Now, for the Rockets, we did see some great showcasing from Alperen Sengun. 25, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists with 4 steals and a block and an opener. That is just absolutely ridiculous. Alperen Sengun had 10 rebounds in the first quarter with 5 offensive rebounds in the first couple minutes. It was just absolutely fantastic to be able to clean up the glass and just kind of put back his own mistakes or team's mistakes here for the Rockets here. He's looking like to be that centerpiece, that main guy. I know Jalen Green also had 28 points, but he did not look that great. Shot very inconsistently. 33% from three-point range, 40% from the field, and ultimately I think that's a little bit of an issue. Fred VanVleet also 22% from the field, 18% from three, not the greatest, but Amen Thompson did look solid setting up this team. Looks like a solid defender as well and playmaker for this Rockets team off the bench. And unfortunately, Reed Shepard just could not get it going either. Do have high expectations for this Rockets team. I think that they will kind of bounce back from this, but ultimately, I think Jalen Green might be one of the players that isn't forced out immediately, but it's looking like Sengun's going to be that foundation and that clear piece that you need to have. And maybe finding a player that could work as a catch and shoot guy playing with Sengun might be a better fit than a guy in Jalen Green who needs the ball in his hands. So maybe a trade could be worked out throughout the regular season, depending on how the Rockets look with Jalen Green to get something done. This was another key game as well to kind of dive in and look at as we had the Bulls take on the Pelicans. And you might hear Bulls Pelicans, might think this is a battle of mid, but ultimately it was a great game. Pelicans coming away 123 to 111 and some great storylines as well. Obviously, first want to mention Lonzo Ball was back, ladies and gentlemen, even though he played 13 minutes. 5 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 50% from the field, 33% from three. Obviously on a minutes restriction, but that's what we like to see for the Bulls as well off the bench. Jalen Smith, another player who was very, very high on, had a little bit of a revitalization with the Pacers as a backup big player that I could think can insert himself into this uh, Bulls direction and maybe even starting lineup. 15 points and 5 rebounds, 62% from the field, 33% from three. For the Bulls, we also saw Zach LaVine go off 27 points, 58% from the field, 62% from three. One concern is the 7 turnovers from LaVine, but he's looking like he could put himself out there, and that's what the Bulls need. The Bulls need Zach LaVine to go out and showcase that he can be this a very, very good scorer. So if you want to add him to your team, that you might need some added defense at that wing position. But if you're getting Zach LaVine, you might be getting a guy that's going to give you 20, 25 points. And I think teams like the Lakers and the Heat would be wanting player in Zach LaVine, getting closer and closer to the trade deadline. If he's putting up numbers like this, adding him as another star to help out if they're specifically going in the wrong direction. Giddey also had a nice game, 14, 5, and 3. Kobe White took in a little bit too many shots there, 4 for 13. Unfortunately, did not hit a three with only 10 points, but 8 rebounds and 6 assists to help out the squad as well. When looking at the Pelicans side of things, Brandon Ingram was the leading scorer, 33, 7, and 2, really taking control for this Pelicans squad. And DeJounte Murray, even though he was playing with a dislocated hand. 14, 8, and 10, almost a triple double there. 2 rebounds shy, but as we all know, he will be dealing with that hand injury, so he'll be out for the foreseeable future. And it's just awful to see on opening night, as we saw, and the numerous amount of injuries on opening night that were not great. Yves Missy and Jordan Hawkins, two youngins on the Pelicans as well, also having good games. Yves Missy, 12 and 7 rebounds with 3 blocks, and Jordan Hawkins, 13 points and 7 rebounds. One of their sharpshooters and one of their better players that I think could be off the bench, shooting 50% from three last night. Keeping my eye on those guys heading into this season. All right, and now we're getting into the late window, ladies and gentlemen. These 3 games, the first one kipping off at 9 o'clock was the Jazz and Grizzlies, excuse me. And this one was a nail biter to the end. The Grizzlies coming away 126 104 in a little bit of a classic. A little bit of a bigger blowout in the first half, but the Jazz fighting their way back. John Morant, once again, proving that he's a top tier player in this league. 22 points and 10 assists. When healthy, he is that guy. Desmond Bain also contributing for this team, 24 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists as well, shooting 40% from 3-point range. Zach Edey unfortunately fouled out, 5 rebounds and 5 points. And I think that's something that this team is going to have to look at is another center, specifically with a player in Jaren Jackson being out for the beginning of the season. Zach Edey might not be able to hold it down for the foreseeable future, and they could be a team I think that could be on the eye for a move and bringing in a center, regardless if it's trade or if it's free agency. But like I said, Santi Aldama, 27 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists as well. Sharp shooting big for this squad, 50% from 3-point range. Really, really liking what I'm seeing. And on the Jazz side here, Hendricks looked more comfortable. in his role with this team. Unfortunately for Keontae George, he did not have a great shooting night. 3 for 18 from the field, 1 for 6 from 3. He's someone I'm also very, very high on with this squad. But two players that did stand out and did look very good for this Jazz team were Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Lauri Markkanen, obviously, being that, big focal point on the Jazz trade fronts, possibly going to the Warriors this last offseason. Did not end up going there. Signed an extension with Utah. Just putting on another masterclass. And if Utah wants to compete, they can showcase that Laurie is a guy that can be a star, and we can get another star to work with him and trade away the young guys. Or if Utah wants to trade away the youth, wants to go the full youth movement, they can trade Lauri Markkanen once again to then get more assets similar to with they did with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, which they're still recouping on all of those. But like I said, 34, 35, 9, and 2 for Markkanen here, one of the better wing players in the league. And Walker Kessler, a player, again, also mentioned in trade talks by the Utah Jazz. 16, 14, 1 assist, 5 blocks from the man. He needs to start immediately. He needs to stay implemented in the starting lineup, and I better not hear any more disrespect on Walker Kessler's name. Last year was a fluke of a season. He is legitimate on that defensive side of the basket, and if the Jazz are looking to trade him, even if after this game that is a mistake, but every other team should capitalize on that. Shout out Jay Huff as well from the Memphis Grizzlies. 13 points and 5 rebounds on a two-way contract, and it is one of those big men that could possibly be signed on to a full-term deal as the Grizzlies still have one open roster spot. We're getting closer and closer to the end with these last two games here. Like I said, next game is the Warriors and the Blazers. 139-104 win for the Warriors here. Just masterclass showing from the Warriors. Andrew Wiggins, 20 points, looking very, very solid. Steph Curry, one rebound shy of a triple double, 17, 9, and 10. And Buddy Hield, looking like he could bend that third splash bro for the in the past, looking like he's a nice splash bro now with this Warriors team. Even though he came off the bench, 22 points, 5 rebounds, 8 for 12 from the field, 5% from 3. Regardless of where he's going to be inserted in this lineup, I think he'll be a key adamant piece for this team. And for the Blazers, it's just what we kind of expected. Unfortunately for this Blazers team, it's very, very weirdly constructed. It's got veterans, it's got young players, it's got a weird direction. I don't necessarily know. I know they want to stay young, but they have some weird contracts. Scoot Henderson, their top pick from last year, came off the bench and was their most productive player with 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, even though he shot 39% from the field and 0 for 5 from 3-point range. None of these players on this team had a positive plus minus. I mean, out of the starters, the highest is a minus 13 from Denny Avida, and that's not key. This Blazers team is atrocious on defense, like absolutely abysmal. Got to be the worst team on defense, and it's because it's a bunch of guys that are just thrown on a roster to be constructed. Unfortunately for this Blazers team, it's kind of hard to develop. It's kind of hard to find those guys, but they've been able to look through those guys through the diamonds in the rough. They brought in Denny Avida, who was one of their better players in training camp. He looked good. 15, 7, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, stacking up all those categories. Tumani Kamara as well, another young piece that has been inserted into this Blazers team. 11, 6, 4, and 2 steals. I'm really liking what I saw out of him. Jeremy Grant, DeAndre, and need to be traded. I'm sorry, it just needs to be done. There's no need for them to be on this team. There's no room for them to grow. Just please, Blazers, please. I know Blazers fans are in the same boat. Nothing much to say about the team. I'm sorry. They're just not that good. Not really exciting. Very, very atrocious on defensive side of the basketball. Not many bright spots, man. And lastly, let's break down the masterclass, the game that went to overtime, the only overtime game in that final showing. Luckily, was on that ESPN doubleheader. Suns versus Clippers. Clippers showing off their new arena, the Intuit Dome, and it was very, very exciting seeing that wall, how impactful it could be, but it wasn't as impactful enough for the Suns. The Suns come away with the victory, 116 to 113 in overtime. Game was a nail biter going back and forth, but Durant hits the clutch shot to send the game to OT. James Harden unfortunately misses a game-tying free throw to send the game to double overtime. Durant 25, 7, 3 assists, 1 block, but very, very solid. And Bradley Beal, player who looked very, very underperforming in the preseason, had 24 points on 66% shooting from the field and 66% shooting from 3. Definitely shut up his haters. Yusuf Nurkic also missed the preseason with some injuries. He looked solid, being a nice, bigger, stretching big. 2 steals, 2 assists, 9 rebounds, 11 points. Devin Booker unfortunately fouled out with 15 points. And Tyus Jones and Monte Morris did their job setting up this team. 11 points and 8 assists for Tyus and Monte Morris as well, finishing the game with 5 points and 2 assists. Rookies looked decent. Ryan Dunn didn't have his greatest showing, but Oso Ogadaro looked pretty solid as a power forward along this team. Grayson Allen looks like his best role coming off the bench. For the Clippers, Zubac 21 9 and 3, controlled the boards, controlled the glass down low. Harden tried his best 29 12 and 8 to lead this team, but unfortunately it just was not enough. Ultimately, if Norman Powell hits some more shots instead of shooting 5 for 16 from the field, if he can deliver and get some extra buckets, I think this Clippers team has a shot to even dethrone this Suns team in their home opener. But ultimately, they fell short. But like I said, we broke down these games, kind of went over every single one, 10 of them, which was absolutely crazy. I want to say thank you, everyone that tuned into this video. Thank you so much for your guys' support. It's really, really appreciated. Tonight, we're going to have more games on tonight. I believe there are 4 matchups on, if I'm not mistaken. Celtics take on the Wizards. Spurs take on the Mavericks. I believe the Timberwolves are taking on the Sacramento Kings, and I don't remember the last matchup. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. How excited are you guys for the games tonight? How excited are you for the NBA season to be back and ready to go? I'm going to try to get these videos out a little bit earlier. I know I just kind of realized I'm releasing a video about yesterday's games at 5 p.m. So, I think I'm going to work on that, try to get that a little bit better, try to get that out a little bit earlier for you guys so you guys can get the recaps, can get the understanding a bit better. And hopefully we can go a little bit more into detail on these games as well when there's not 10 of them being on at every single night. Kind of break it down. But if you like the longer form videos, if you like the longer breakdown discussions, I'm willing to do it. I love speaking about basketball. I love talking about it. I just don't want to keep you trapped in a 45-minute video, specifically when I only have 150 subscribers and I know half of you click in and click out. But I do appreciate everybody that's tuned in, specifically if you heard that and you're still at this point in the video. Thank you. It really does mean a lot. If you want to check me out on social media, follow me on Twitter at Bruce Velez. It is down in the description of the video. You can get all my updates on my other NBA content that I post on for writing, posting on for other YouTube channels for my other company, Digest Media, and you can also get my NBA updates on everything that I think around the NBA is there as well. So once again, thank you guys so much. You guys have been absolutely fantastic, and I'll catch you guys in the video tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and peace out, everyone.